My name is Mary Pearson Purvis. I did my portfolio on forensic science, and I chose forensic science because of my love for it and interest of how it works. And I researched all about all the other parts of forensics. My artifact is a giant fingerprint with splattered blood on it along with the crime tape. And for service, I was going to read to the dogs at Young Williams, and for that it is where you help calm their nerves or anxiety with reading to them. And it was kind of difficult to put the words, like the facts, into sentences. And I interviewed the police department, and they gave me so many cases, and I truly loved a lot of them because they were all so unique and interesting. And I also interviewed Miss Studman. She gave me so many details and everything about all the other cases that she has had, and I am very thankful for her to give me the time that she did. And she's absolutely amazing at her job. I thank you for that. And thank you to everyone that has helped me.
Hello, my name is Colin Stedman, and for my portfolio project, I studied the Middle Ages, war, and religion. And in my research, I learned a lot more about the catapult and all of its variations, how the wars went down, the religion, and especially the Crusades. And Dr. Nicole Hamonic helped with a lot of research by telling me a lot about the plagues and the education system. And for my artifact, I built a small-scale catapult which helped armies fight each other without hand-to-hand combat and destroy structures. And a lot of the biggest challenges were definitely building this and the essay. For the service, I worked at an animal shelter, and I'd like to thank my dad for a lot of help with the catapult and Dr. Hamonic for a lot of extra research. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hogan Cruz, and I'm an 8th grade student at ESK. And for this year's portfolio project, I made a theme park out of the game Planet Coaster. Planet Coaster is a game where I can create roller coasters, ride rides, and make a theme park. I've always been interested in roller coasters and the history of it, so that's why I chose this project for the year. For this year's portfolio project, I had to interview somebody, so I interviewed a man named John Stevenson. John Stevenson is an employee for the company Coaster 101. Coaster 101 is a group of enthusiasts who ride roller coasters all around the world. For this year's service project, I was going to start a Make-A-Wish fund drive, but for this whole coronavirus thing, I couldn't do it. So, thank you again for having me at ESK. It's been a pleasure, and this year's portfolio project was really fun. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and I researched the evolution of photography. I interviewed Jordan Matter. Jordan Matter has a YouTube channel that has over 4.13 million subscribers. His channel is focused on photography, and he also does photo challenges. For my service project, I wanted to create a collage that represents ESK. I went to school and took pictures all around the campus and made them into a collage. I donated this collage to the Saints Circle. For my artifact, I wanted to create something that showed just how much photography has changed. So I went around Knoxville and took pictures. I edited these pictures to make them look like they were taken in different decades. I put these pictures on a piece of wood that I painted. I also created a book that shows what different cameras looked like during the decades and also tells more about the way photography was during these decades. Some things that I had trouble with was editing these pictures to make them look like they were taken in a different decade, even though they weren't. I would like to thank my parents, Miss Gary and Miss Wood, for helping me with this project.
Hello, I am Emma, and I researched the history and types of animation. During my research, I was able to interview Melissa Denton, a character positioner for Cartoon Network. I was also able to interview Jade Duke, a graphic designer for video games. For my service, I led students in creating colorful images to send to Color a Smile. Color a Smile is an organization that sends happy images to people that need a smile. For my artifact, I created a 40-second long animation. This animation was the most difficult part for me because it took a really long time and I had a few technical difficulties. In total, it took around 28.5 hours. I made this animation by first making a storyboard. It looked like this. And then I turned that into a sketchy animation that planned out the timing and finished off with line art and coloring. This project was a lot of fun and I hope you enjoy the animation.
Hi, my name is Madison Lafferty, and for my portfolio project, I decided to research hair loss in young children. Most of my research was based off of hair loss statistics or different ways people coped with their hair loss. For my interview, I decided to interview a friend of Miss Gary's, Dr. Maria Juarez, who is an oncologist in Houston, Texas. For my service project, I held a lemonade stand and then donated the funds to this organization called Alex's Lemonade Stand, which they help fund research for finding cures to different types of childhood cancer. Then for my artifact, I decided to display different ways people went about losing their hair. Like different people decide to wear real hair wigs, different people decide to just wear like just normal ball caps or hats, and then some people decide just to stay bald, and then other people decide to get hair pieces, different type of hair pieces, and then some people just go with head wraps.
I did my project on the impact that PBS has on the society. I chose this project because a lot of people don't understand all that PBS does for one another. I found that researching is a lot harder than I thought it would be because there's a lot of websites about PBS and you never know exactly what you want. I did my artifact is actually a flip book of all the logos from PBS, and I've 3D printed a PBS logo on the front of it. From the starting of PBS logos to shows and so much more. Documentaries, everything. This whole project was a lot harder than I would think it would be. The starting was quite hectic because all of it, because it's a brand new thing. But the whole project was fun, and I suggest they do it over and over again.
Hi, my name is Lily, and this is my portfolio project. For my topic, I wanted to choose sea turtle conservation because I've always loved the ocean and marine life ever since I was little. So for my portfolio artifact, I decided to do a model of a sea turtle nesting site. So you can see the mother has created a nest and has laid her eggs, and she has buried it under the sand to protect them from predators. And after that, the mother's job is done and she swims away. And I also wanted to do a second part to show what actually happens to these sea turtles and just give you an image of what is wrong. So for my research paper, I got the pleasure of interviewing two amazing scientists. The first one, her name was Kim Stone, and she is a fish specialist at the Georgia Aquarium. And the second person was Chris Burgess, and he is a sea turtle doctor at the Florida Sea Turtle Hospital. So for my research paper, I think that was probably the hardest part of this whole entire project, just because there are so many tiny little details and facts that you need to get exactly right, and you can't really have room to just be free with it because you need to get these exactly right or it'll be plagiarism. So for my service project, I wanted to do a recycling drive just to kind of help with pollution, which is one of the main problems with sea turtles dying and becoming extinct. But sadly, I was not able to fulfill my service project because of this whole pandemic going on. So in conclusion, I would like to thank both of my parents, Miss Gary for being so, and Miss Gary for being so helpful. And I would also like to thank Father Matt and everybody who was involved with helping me with my project. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Owen Davis, and my project this year is the evolution of American protest music. When choosing my project, I wanted to incorporate music and social justice. American protest music is the perfect combination of the two. I interviewed 6-time Grammy-nominated folk singer John McCutcheon, as well as local activist and singer-songwriter Candy Carawan. For my artifact, I made a visual timeline of the history of American protest music, accompanied by a playlist highlighting key songs along that timeline. If you want to experience the history of American protest music, search on Spotify, Portfolio Project Owen Davis, and you should be able to hear all of the songs. Here's a brief view at my artifact. The timeline starts in 1619 when the first slaves are brought to America. As you can see, I've highlighted the different eras of protest music, such as the labor movement, the folk revival movement, and the modern era. For my service project, I partnered with Emmy's Frozen Yogurt to raise $312 for the Joy of Music School, who provides free music lessons and instruments to underprivileged kids. One challenge I faced during this project was battling procrastination, especially while working on my artifact. However, I changed ideas and it came together at the end. Overall, I learned how to conduct research and interviews, how to make a research paper, and how to manage my time to work on my project. I want to thank Miss Gary, John McCutcheon, and Candy Carawan for all of their help with the project.
Hi, my name is Cade. This year, for my portfolio project, I did the history of the baseball bat. For this research, I had to conduct an interview with a man named Jacob Marucci. Jacob Marucci is the founder of Marucci Bats and the director of athletic training at LSU. He told me how to make metal and wood bats, and using his advice and with the help of an expert named Drew Hoagland, I was able to create this wood bat that I'm holding in my hands. For my service project, I was able to collect athletic gear that was used or sitting in people's garages and send it to Carm for people who could put that gear to good use. In conclusion, I would like to thank Drew Hoagland, Jacob Marucci, and anybody else who may have helped out with this project. I could not have done it without you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Piper Kelly. I've always been interested in wolves, which led me to the thought of how wolves evolved into domestic dogs like we have today. My portfolio project is all about the evolution of wolves to dogs. I was fortunate enough to be able to interview Elaine Ostrander, who is an American geneticist, and Adam McLosey, who is a Hungarian ethologist. For my artifact, I made a wolf head sculpture out of clay. This took about a month to complete overall. As a service project, I plan to run an animal supply drive with my fellow classmate Sadie. All of the supplies would have been donated to the Young Williams Animal Center. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus pandemic, this drive was not able to be completed. But Sadie and I will certainly try to help animals in any way possible. To my teachers, I would like to thank you all for pushing me and guiding me through this process of portfolio. I mean, I would have never thought I would have been able to interview well-known experts on this topic. And to the rising 8th graders of ESK, definitely look forward to creating your own portfolio project.
Hello, my name is Anthony Schmidt, and for my 8th grade portfolio project, I researched the basketball sneaker. Ever since I have been watching the NBA, I was extremely interested in what the players were wearing. Whether it be Kobe or LeBron, I was always fascinated by the shoes. For this project, I interviewed Rock Hurst, who is an Adidas sales professional. He told me a lot about how the shoes are made and how Adidas sells them to schools and people. For my artifact, I made 2 displays of the most iconic sneakers of all time. The Air Jordan 1 and the Chuck Taylor. These 2 shoes show 2 different time periods in the NBA and what the players were wearing at those times. For my service project, I teamed up with Cooper Crook to run a shoe drive at ESK, and we would donate these shoes to Souls for Souls. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Hayden Kleppels, and for my portfolio project, I researched The Office and its effect on society. For my research, I interviewed Amina Kaplan, an actress on the show. She plays Val in the later seasons of the show. I also researched many different websites and researched that many different celebrities and people have found the show to be one of their favorites. One celebrity being Billie Eilish, one of the most popular icons in common culture. For my artifact, I created the Dundie. A Dundie is used in the show to symbolize greatness in the workplace. What I did is I bought several pieces of wood and this trophy with nuts and bolts. I painted the wood and cut holes in the wood to make the trophy fit and be as accurate as the trophy in the show. For my service, I collected paper and markers from ESK to donate to CARM. I did this because in the show, the whole show is about a paper company in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I couldn't take these donations to CARM because CARM closed because of the quarantine. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carly Ferrone, and I did my portfolio project on rollerblading. For the interview portion of my project, I interviewed B-Free, or Brian Freeman. B-Free owns B-Free Blading Academy in California. He has been skating for most of his life, and he loves teaching kids how to skate. I also interviewed Chris Haffey. Chris Haffey is a rollerblader for Nitro World Circus. He skates down giant mega ramps and then does tricks while he's in the air. For my service project, I had a very hard time finding something to do with rollerblading, so instead I held a book drive at my school. For the book drive, I collected books and then donated them to kids who didn't have enough money to get their own. For my artifact, I built a rollerblading ramp. I built my ramp out of wood and nails, and then I had to cut the wood myself with the help of my father. Rollerblading ramps are used for a different form of skating called aggressive skating.
My name is Celeste, and I studied Sisu. Sisu originated in Finland and is a characteristic within everyone that allows you to carry on when it feels impossible to continue. I interviewed Joanna Nyland, who is the author of Sisu, The Finnish Art of Courage, and a social activist in Finland. For the service portion of Portfolio, I volunteered at local fun runs to encourage people to keep pushing. I helped at the Butterfly Run of Knoxville and Starry Night Run. They both donate money to various childhood cancer funds. Overall, I spent around 3.5 hours volunteering. I really enjoyed making my artifact because it was really relaxing. I painted a finished background with a silver birch tree, which is the national tree of Finland. On the roots, I wrote negative phrases and words, and on the branches, I wrote words that describe Sisu. I spent around 20 hours on my artifact. During the project, the hardest part was time management, but I was able to overcome this by planning every step carefully. I would like to thank my family, Joanna Nyland, Miss Gary, and Mr. Hoffman, who were all huge helps during this project.
Hi, I'm Cooper, and for my project, I chose to do the history of sneakers. I chose this topic because I've been collecting sneakers for a couple of years, and I wanted to learn more about the sneaker market and how the shoes have evolved over time. For my interview, I interviewed Rock Hurst, who's a sales professional at Adidas, and he taught me a lot about the sneaker market and how the technology has changed through the years. For my service, I held a shoe drive at my school with Anthony Schmidt, and we donated the shoes to Souls for Souls, who's an organization that donates shoes to people who can't afford them. And for my artifact, I bought a blank white pair of Air Force Ones, and I customized them with black paint and to kind of make them look like a cartoon. And Some challenges I faced along the way were choosing my topic at the beginning and finding research about the history of sneakers. I enjoyed doing this project, and it taught me a lot about how the sneaker market has changed and how the technology of shoes has changed through the years.
Hello, I'm Charles Rogers, and for my portfolio project, I researched raptors and their effect on the environment and on people. So, for help of this, I interviewed Stephen Lynn Bales and Susan Evans. Stephen Lynn Bales is a naturalist, author, and an ex-rehabilitator of raptors. Susan Evans, my grandmother, is a researcher on falconry. So for my artifact, I did two different components because my paper is about their effect on both nature and on people. So for their effect on nature, I did this acrylic painting of two stellar seagulls. And for my artifact on their effect on people, I did this clay sculpture of Horus, the Egyptian god of the sky. Thankfully, there were not too many challenges in the making of this project. However, I did have to do some major revisions on my paper, and also there was a time frame for setting up these kestrel nesting boxes. Because kestrels nest in April, I had to put these up by late March at the latest. So in conclusion, thank you to my parents, my grandparents, Stephen Lynn Bales, Liz from Wild Birds Unlimited store, and my teachers. Thank you.
Hi, I am Zoe, and for my portfolio project, I researched pediatric cardiology. I wanted to know how pediatric cardiology affects other medical fields. I interviewed Dr. Carla Christian, a cardiothoracic surgeon, and Dr. Thomas Doyle, a pediatric cardiologist, both from Vanderbilt University. My research was mainly based around congenital heart defects and the surgeries used to correct them. For my service, I designed a heart activity book and handed them out to children with congenital heart defects at Children's Hospital. I thought it would not only be fun for them, but fun for me as well. I made 3 models of the heart, one normal one with a common congenital heart defect, and one with a rare congenital heart defect. I carved 3 blocks of styrofoam for the base of the heart and then covered them in colored clay. I also labeled them. One challenge I encountered during my research was when I found it hard to put the information in the order I wanted, because I had so much information on this topic. I would like to thank my parents and Dr. Carla Christian and Dr. Thomas Doyle for their wonderful interviews.
Hi, I'm Bo Fizer, and for my portfolio research project, I did the history of the American recession. American recessions tend to occur every 9 to 12 years, and this is a graph of the most recent one. It shows all the important dates and what happened on them. I found my service aspects to be very challenging due to the fact that I was unable to complete it. I also found organizing my research in my paper to be very confusing. I would like to thank Miss Gary, Randall Capps, and Richard Barkham for assisting me with both my interviews and the portfolio process. It was very kind of them to have helped me. I found portfolio to be a very interesting experience, and I am glad that I completed it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bayless Bolt. My 8th grade portfolio project is on the history of modern military medicine. I chose this project because it combines my 2 favorite subjects in school, science and history. I researched it by comparing timelines of medical advances to those of weaponry. I interviewed Dr. Brantley Burns, a military medic veteran. My artifact is a diorama of 2 wars I covered in my paper. Here, this is covering Afghanistan. This is a Black Hawk evacuation vehicle. It was very important for getting soldiers off the battlefield quickly. Over here is the Civil War side of my diorama. Here is a soldier getting treated, and here is a soldier who has been amputated. For my service, I hosted a basketball clinic. I raised donations for the Wounded Warrior Project to tie it to my portfolio project. My biggest challenge was deciding on my service project. Many of my ideas I encountered had roadblocks that prevented them from happening. While working on my portfolio project, I learned the interesting and complicated history of modern military medicine. I learned how to create a diorama and I learned how to organize my service project. I want to thank Dr. Brantley Burns for a great interview, my parents for supporting me, and Miss Gary for her amazing help in every category.
Hi, my name is Colin Cook, and I did my portfolio research project on the history of 1980s toys, the toys that shaped generations. I chose to do my portfolio project on this topic because when I was 5 years old, I received one of my dad's old toys, and I was shocked to see how different it was when compared to the newer toy. For my research, I began that back in summer during portfolio camp. I was able to get 30 of 60 card note cards done. Little did I know at the time that those 30 note cards were written in the incorrect format. I had to go back and write them all into the correct format. For my interview, I interviewed Jeremy Pradauer, who is the CEO of Wicked Cool Toys. And Wicked Cool Toys owns the rights to Pokemon. Jeremy Pradauer was a huge help in my portfolio project because he's a huge expert on this topic. For my service project, I partnered with the Angel Tree, and I was able to have an Angel Tree at ESK. I asked to do this, and Major Sarah Nelson of the Salvation Army was happy to give me 50 tags. All 50 tags were taken, and it was a huge success. For my artifact, I did a comparison between some of the older and the newer toys. For example, the Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back 1985 Slave One. The newer model has much better paint and looks more like the thing in the movie, but the old toy still has its charm. Another iconic thing from Star Wars, Luke Skywalker. The original toy from 1985 didn't look anything like him in the movie, and he had a yellow lightsaber, when in the movie he had a blue one. The toy in 2010 is more accurate to the movie. It has a blue lightsaber, and it has much more articulation, which means that the figure can move a lot more. And my personal favorite, Thundercracker, the original 1984, the one that I received from my dad. This entire body right here, all the silver bits are made out of die-cast metal, while the newer model, it's just all made out of plastic. In conclusion, I would like to thank my parents, my teachers, my friends, Major Sarah Nelson, and Jeremy Pradauer for helping me out with my project. Thank you.
My name is Piper Lotta, and my portfolio project was on puppy mills. I was motivated to do this project because I have always loved animals and I wanted to help them. I approached this thinking about the bigger picture. What was I trying to accomplish? This to me was more than just a research paper and service hours. To me, this was a chance to get out there and help animals in any way that I could, and I chose to help stop puppy mills. Puppy mills are awful breeding facilities that only care about the profit that they make off of the dogs. Most of the time the dogs are in unimaginable conditions. Some have never seen sunlight, have touched the ground, or they've never been touched by a human. Some of the challenges I have had were people not wanting to tell me the whole story. They were trying to keep some parts from me because they didn't want me to know how awful these things were. But I needed to know all the information in order to write a successful paper. I finally found someone who told me everything I needed to know. Her name was Elizabeth Orrick. She's the National Manager of Puppy Mills Initiatives at Best Friends Animal Society. She taught me so much knowledge, and I thank her for everything she has done for me. She sent me these flyers that I was supposed to put out on my table during portfolio night so people could grab them and look what a puppy mill was. My artifact, I had started a petition online, and it's at onchange.org. I have over 700 signatures right now, but my goal was about 1,000. You have until June 1st, and I hope everyone who's watching this is able to sign. The website is www.change.org/stoppuppymills. This portfolio project was really fun to me. Thank you.
My name is Eli Chestnut, and for my portfolio project, I researched the world of the Axis powers had won World War II. For my research, I interviewed Gabriel Rosenfeld, who is a professor of Judaic studies at Fairfield University. who has written a number of books on this topic. And he was quite helpful since I had spent quite a lot of time trying to find somebody who could and would participate in an interview. So thanks to him. For my artifact, I used Google Earth to create a map of how the world more or less would have been divided between the Nazis, Italians, and Japanese if they had won World War II. It should be noted that the key doesn't indicate this, but if something's under the green as Nazi Germany, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would have been directly ruled by them. For example, Vichy France would have likely been a puppet state, and while the northern half was occupied by the Nazis. Right here you can see a map of Europe and North Africa, which would have been mostly dominated by the Nazis, but they would have allowed Britain to continue existing. And the Italians would have gotten a little bit of the northern Mediterranean area, including Greece and Libya, which you can barely see down there. Here's Africa. I can't really, it's hard to say exactly how this would have been distributed, but Italy would have probably controlled the northeastern side of Africa, while the Nazis would have gotten a lot of what France and Britain's colonies down on the west side, all the way down to the South Africa. Here's the map of Asia, which would have been largely dominated by the Japanese. The Russians would have been mostly pushed back, but the Nazis probably wouldn't have been able to push them much farther, and probably wouldn't have been able to. Mongolia and the Philippines and several Pacific islands and colonies would have been seized by the Japanese from the British and other empires. Here's the rest of the Pacific, with Australia having been dominated by Japan.
Hi, my name is Sophie Daniel, and for my portfolio research project this year, I decided to explore how the evolution of art has affected societal expression today. I chose this topic not only because of my general devotion to the idea of art itself, but also because of how intrigued I was to gather different interpretations about how our society is influenced by these themes daily. Research-wise, I gathered many expansive styles and eras of art, ranging from ancient Indonesian cave paintings to Van Gogh's Starry Night. When it comes to the artifact portion of my project, I spent around a month creating a representation of generic art progression throughout centuries of human interaction, deriving from all cultures, different textures, and even language dialects to come together as one very rough outline of my research surrounding the subject. I would sincerely like to thank many people who helped me through this very tedious process, but I would mostly like to thank my good friend Veronica Shreve, my mother Melissa Daniel, and my two interviewees Mary Campbell and Suzanne Wright. Thank you all.
Hey y'all, my name is Gracie Lockie. I did my portfolio project on service dogs.
So the reason I chose service dogs for my project is because they help out so many people per year. And I thought it'd be interesting to look further into that, like more on the training and what kinds of service dogs there
To look
actually
more into
are.
the training part and for the service aspect of this project, I am puppy raising a dog for a year. So basically I'm just training his name's Blair, the simple things like simple commands and potty training, stuff like that.
So basically for the artifact part, I did a black service dog vest, and I hemmed the edges, and I hand stitched his name, Blair, and I also hand stitched service dog on the vest. I just want to go back and thank everyone. I want to thank Smoky Mountain Service Dog Trainers for letting me have the opportunity to actually train Blair and see how much work y'all actually put in, even though I'm not even putting in half as much effort as y'all do. So thank you for that. I appreciate you for everything you are providing to people. I also want to thank Emily Miter for letting me interview her, and I want to thank every teacher at ESK who has helped me through this process. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sadie Meyerhofer. So, throughout society, I have seen people with emotional support dogs, service dogs, and just dogs in general. And it seems to make, like, service dogs and emotional support dogs seem to make the quality of life better for people. So, I was curious, so I decided to make my portfolio project all about how dogs affect people emotionally, physically, and mentally. To add to my research, I interviewed 4 professional dog trainers. Their names are Amanda Est, Tiffany Denyer, Eileen Heveron, and Elaine Snavely. They have helped me so much with learning how dogs affect people. So for my artifact, I constructed a dog house. This dog house is made of wood, and it's painted over with some tape. I couldn't hold the wood pieces together, so I had to tape it. Right here, these are my 3 dogs. Buck passed away, but I have Abby and Twix still here. So I had some extra wood, so I decided to put their names on here. And my dogs were being very uncooperative, so I decided to put a stuffed animal. For my service project, I collaborated with Piper Kelly to host an animal supply drive at our school. All donated items would have been given to Young Williams Animal Shelter, but unfortunately, because of COVID-19, this drive was not able to be complete. I would like to thank my parents for helping me find the right supplies and buying them, and I would like to thank them for also helping me come up with a format for what we're gonna follow with the TP Doghouse. I would also like to thank everybody who I interviewed because I have really learned so much, and it was all because of them. And also, I would like to thank my teachers for, sticking with us through this time and making us, even though the COVID-19 has made us not been able to do this at school, they're still doing this, so thank you, teachers. I would also like to thank Piper Kelly, who's behind this camera right now, for filming and helping me write up what I'm gonna say.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryan McCarter, and for my portfolio project, I decided to research the safety of American football helmets. This topic has interested me for a long time, and Portfolio has finally given me the opportunity to delve into this topic. I really started to get interested in this topic after the media criticized the NFL for the safety of players in the ongoing concussion problem. To help me understand this topic a little bit better, I decided to interview 3 people for this project. One of them is Christy Arbogast, who works at the Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania on injury research and prevention, Brittany Rogers, helmet designer at Viscus, and Matthew McVeigh, Zenith, the design director. For my artifact, I decided to make a mesh of the helmet using bandage and wire, and I made it around an already existing helmet to help further make the mesh. I wasn't able to complete the face bar in time, so we got a face bar and attached it onto the mesh. I was going to color it a different color, but due to limitations concerning COVID-19, I wasn't able to do that. Some of the challenges of this project included trying to figure out what to do for my service and who to interview to get the correct and accurate research. Lastly, I'd like to thank my parents, Moya, and ESK for the opportunity for me to research this and delve into it, and for me to understand the safety of American football. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Julia Crouch. I'm an 8th grade student here at ESK. For my portfolio project, I wanted to learn more about the history and progression of the LGBTQ+ community. Being a part of the community myself and a history lover, I wanted to develop a deeper understanding about the movements that have been taken to reach our current stance in society. I focused primarily on the progression in the United States, but I also learned some about the LGBTQ+ community outside of our country's borders. I was able to interview one of my dear friends for this project. Her name was Katerina Tretiak, who is involved in a support group for LGBTQ teens in Ukraine. For my artifact, I stitched a collage of multiple pride flags that all represent a different sexuality or gender identity. I wanted to make it as a symbol of diversity in our community. At first, I wasn't sure that I'd be able to make my artifact in time, but luckily it came out even better than I expected. This project I read to the 2nd grade class at ESK. The book I read had a strong theme of diversity as I educated them on the topic and why it is so important, with the help of our librarian, Mrs. Clark. Overall, I love my portfolio project, and I'm so blessed to have been involved in a time-honored tradition here at ESK. Thank you.
My topic is the evolution of horseback riding and tack. Tack refers to the equipment used for horseback riding, such as the saddle and the bridle. As a rider myself, I already know a lot about how to ride and how the tack is used now, but I've always wondered about how horseback riding evolved from a large necessity to a current-day sport. To begin my research, I went as far back as I could. I found out each different piece of equipment they used then and compared it to the equipment used now. For my artifact, my dad and I built a tack box together. It holds my boots, my helmet, grooming supplies, and my horse's boots. This is my horse's bridle. It goes on his face with the nose piece and the throat latch. This is my horse's bit. He uses a double broken 2-ring metal mouth bit. It goes in his mouth like this. These are garters so that it doesn't pinch when it slides. Basically, if he's having a good day, I can put the reins, which are these, on the snaffle ring so that it's a softer feel in his mouth. But if he's being aggravating, or if he's mad, or if he's being mean, I can put it on a second ring, and it will give more of a tug and a pull to be a harsher bit in his mouth. This is my saddle. When I bought it with extra padding on the back because he has a suede back, which means his back arches more than normal horses. For my interview, I interviewed Jim Colford. He is a 5-time national champion in dressage. This was probably one of the coolest things I had done because he is definitely one of my idols, and I can only dream of where he is today. For my service project, I was going to raise money to install sprinklers at a local farm because due to the heat in the summer, the sand in the arena gets incredibly dry, which is bad for the horses' lungs when we ride in it. I really enjoyed learning about the history of horses and tack and horseback riding itself, and it's definitely affected my riding today for the best.
My name is Bellamy, and I researched psychiatric hospitals. I don't really know how I got to this topic, but since I did, it's been pretty fun to learn about. A fun fact is that 1 in every 10 young people have at least had one episode of major depression. For my interview, I interviewed Amanda Sharp, who's the IB psychology teacher at West High School. She was very kind and insightful. For my service, me and my mom delivered food to the homeless. Most of the population of the homeless have some sort of mental condition. This is my artifact, a recreation of what a patient would see in their room. The windows are shatter resistant, the beds are secured to the ground with bolts, the plumbing pipes are concealed, and the doors only swing one way, so they can't be barricaded. I would like to thank my mom and dad for helping me through this.
Hi, my name is Darian Burkwalter, and I research the ocean environment and the animals and organisms that live in the ocean. I picked this topic because I've always been interested in this subject. My research question was, how bad is our ocean's health? My conclusion is, it's not very good, and it's only getting worse. I interviewed Malia Manter, and she's the International Communications Manager for Oceana. Oceana is an organization that is helping clean the ocean. I learned many things from her, and I appreciate her taking the time to help me. For my artifact, I chose to use some of the trash I collected from my service from cleaning at local water sources like creeks and stuff, and I made it into my artifact. As you can see, I'm gonna bring the camera closer. I made a turtle out of the trash I collected. And this is supposed to be the ocean, and this is the turtle. Then I used some tin, and this is just trash that's floating in the ocean, sadly. Sadly, this is a soda can. This has happened before, sadly, and it hurts the turtles. Sometimes it ends up killing them by strangling them. It's really bad. And I made shells and cut up the tin that I found. And then the glue that seeped, I decided being creative and made it green and made it algae. And it's really sad how bad the ocean environment is, and we all must do what we can to keep the ocean safe and improve it. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan Shaver, and for this year's portfolio project, I did Operation Smile. Operation Smile is an organization that brings reconstructive surgeries such as cleft lip and palate to third world countries that need it most. Now there are three main components to portfolio: a research paper, a service project, and an artifact. For my research paper, I decided to research the reconstructive surgery processes that surgeons use, Operation Smile and the history of it, and the history of reconstructive surgeries. My interviewees were Miss Jacqueline Nguyen, a student program associate leader for a camp that Operation Smile holds, and my grandfather, Dr. Dan Schell III. He is a highly decorated plastic surgeon out of Memphis, Tennessee, and has been with Operation Smile for over 25 years. Unfortunately, my service project got cut short due to COVID-19 this year. I was going to hold a drive to collect hygienic items in Smile bags. Smile bags are used in Operation Smile's missions to help keep patients healthy. As for my artifact, it's kind of big, so I have to step over it a little bit. It is a quote from my grandfather's office. It's kind of a long quote. I can't fit it in here, but if you look really close, you can see the letters are made up of the different people my grandfather's helped. So, it's really cool. As for overcoming challenges, I didn't find this 9-month process very hard. The only thing I found hard was finding enough research and coming up with an idea for service, because there's not a lot you can do for Operation Smile. I'd like to thank my mom and my grandfather for this process and helping me along with it, especially my mom, because she really helped me come up with ideas for everything.
My name is Brooke Williams, and for my 8th grade portfolio project, I decided to research the history of Broadway theaters. My main question when going into this project was, how did Broadway become the biggest theater industry in America? The first theater actually opened up in 1829, and it only had about 3,000 seats. For my artifact, I tried to recreate several playbills. So I have ones like Cats, the Phantom of the Opera, the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child Part 1 and 2, and it has all the information, the cast, and all the awards that the play or musical got. For my service, I went downtown and helped out the Knoxville Children's Theater, help pull clothes for the cast to wear on their opening night of the newest play that was Judy B. Jones. Last but not least, my interview. I got to interview a family friend. Her name is Miss Ashley Bayer, and she's on the orchestra of many Broadway musicals. So thank you so much for that. Also, thank you, Miss Gary, for helping me through all this, as it was a fun time. So thank you.
I'm Megan. I have always been super interested in dogs. So for my research, I wanted to learn about the history and reasons for euthanizing dogs. I interviewed Linda Gilfin and Tyreen Pooler, who are both directors of the local animal rescue organizations. For my artifact, I created a jar full of M&Ms. The M&Ms represents the number of dogs euthanized each day in the United States. There are 1,836 M&Ms in this jar. I also created a slideshow that contains important information and impactful pictures gathered during my research. For my service project, I worked at a local dog show where I learned about the different types of breeds and how the show operates. I have learned that I can handle big projects by breaking it all down into smaller parts and staying on top of the work. After doing the research portion of my project, I feel I am prepared for my future projects in high school, college, and my career.
Hello, my name is Ella, and for my portfolio project, I studied the Thom Long Cave Rescue, which made headlines in 2018 as people from around the world worked together to rescue a Thai boys soccer team. For my interview, I was able to talk to John Valanthan. He was one of the two divers who were responsible for finding the boys and getting them out of the cave. For my artifact, I made a model of the Thom Long Cave in which the team was trapped in. This model includes the different chambers of the cave, flooded areas, and the Thom Long Mountain above. For my service project, I served baked goods at 8 ESK basketball games, raising over $300 for Knox County Rescue, an organization that specializes in cave, flood, and building collapse rescue. My greatest challenges in this process were learning to cite sources correctly within my research paper, and obviously the coronavirus pandemic. I was not able to get some necessary supplies for my artifact, but I got them with the help of my neighbors. I want to thank my teachers and parents for supporting me throughout this project. Thank you.